Good morning, student. In today's class, we'll be discussing the chapter Human Eye and Colorful World. So, in our previous class, we have already completed the light chapter. This class, we'll be studying this chapter, that is Human Eye and Colorful World. As all of you know, human eye is a very important part of us. Not for us, human being, also other mammals, other vertebrates, other animals. For everyone, human eye is a important part. Why it is so important for us? And if defects are arising, lots of eye defects are there. If they are arising, which kind of problem we will face, and why they are arising, and how can we overcome those problems? All of them we will be studying in this chapter. So in this chapter we'll be studying about human eye, defects of vision and their correction, prism, splitting of white light into constituent colors, atmospheric refraction. Now let us know about human eye. As you can see in the diagram, the outer part of eye is looking like the above of the picture. But if you will see the inner construction of your human eye, it will be something different. So our human eye is nothing but it acts like a camera, which enables us to capturing colorful pictures of our surrounding. But those pictures are real images and also inverted in nature. But whatever images we are seeing of the object, they are in erect position. How that thing happens? Actually, that is happening due to the construction of our human eye. How these things happens? Before knowing that, let us now first of all know what are the parts of human eye. First part of human eye is called the cornea. It is the outermost part of our human eye, which is a thin membrane through which light enters into our eye. It forms the transparent bulk on the front of eyeball. Okay, and most of the refraction occurs at the outer surface of this cornea. Next, as you can see, the black color part, which is known as eyeball, and this eyeball is nothing but it is approximately spherical in shape object and whose diameter is about 2.3 centimeter, and through which light enters into our eye. Next one is iris. As you can see in the diagram, the iris is a dark color muscular diaphragm that controls the size of the pupil, and it is present behind the cornea. It helps in accommodation of light by changing the size of the pupil. Now the question arises, what is pupil then? So pupil regulates and controls the amount of light entering to our eye. It is the black color opening between the aqueous humor and the eye lens, which is black in color, and light also entering through it. But how this pupil is a very important part of our eye? Yes, it is very important for our eye because through it lights only entering into our eye, and it is very much sensitive to the intensity of light also, because it is the opening through which the light enters into our eye. And you can also say that it protects our eye and it decides how much amount of light will enter into our eye, and that will be safer for us. For example, you might have observed that whenever you are situated in a very bright sunlight, in an area where very bright sunlight is present, and after that suddenly you are entering into a dark hall, you are seeing that your eye takes some time to accommodate there. This is happening just because of this pupil. So our pupil is very much sensitive to the bright light, also to the dim light. When the light is bright, the iris contracts the pupil so that less amount of light will enter into our eye. When the light is dim, iris expands the pupil so that more light will enter into our eye. Pupil opens completely when iris is relaxed. Okay. Then the next part of our eye is crystalline eye lens, or you can only say that it is the eye lens, which is the convex lens which is present in our eye. It provides the focused and real and inverted image of the object on the retina. It is composed of a fibrous jelly-like material, which this convex lens always converges the light ray which is entering into our retina, and they are focused at the retina, and where the image of that object will be created, and we are able to see those things. Next is ciliary muscles. It is also a very important part of our human eye. It helps to change the curvature of our eye lens and hence changes its focal length so that we can see the object clearly placed at different positions. Next is retina. Retina is a thin membrane with large number of light sensitive cells. You can tell that it's just like a camera reel. As you have seen in camera reel, whenever light falls on it, an impression will be imprinted there. Similarly, retina is just like a photosensitive screen. If light falls on them, an image of that object will be created there. So there are two types of photosensitive cells which are present in retina, that is rod cells and cone cells, or we are calling it rod-shaped cells and cone-shaped cells. Rod-shaped cells are responsible for the vision at low light level. They do not mediate color visions. And cone cells are active at higher light levels and are capable of color visions. When the image is formed at retina, the light sensitive cells get activated and generate electrical signals. These signals are then sent to brain by optic nerve. Brain analyzes these signals, after which we receive the signal of that object, and the corrected image of that object will be created in our brain. So this is how all these parts are helping us for the creation of image. Next is vitreous humor. Vitreous humor is nothing but it is a clear jelly that fills the space between the lens and the retina of our eyeball. And next is aqueous humor. Aqueous humor is just a transparent watery fluid very much similar to plasma. It containing low protein concentration and is present in the free space between the eye lens and the retina, which is clearly visible in the diagram also. So these are the parts of our eye lens which are helping us to see the image of a particular object. Now let us know two important terms related to our vision. The first one is persistence of vision. It means it is the time for which the sensation of an object continues in our eye, which is about 1/16 of a second. This means what? Means sometimes you have realized that you have done one activity in our lower classes, that suppose you are drawing the picture of a bird in one side of a cardboard, and on the other side you are drawing a case, and whenever you are rotating that cardboard with greater speed, you will realize that two images are not distinctly visible. Rather, you see a image where the bird is appears to be captured inside the case, and this happens due to this persistence of vision. It means even if the object is removed in front of your eye, the image of that object still continue to persist in your retina for 1/16th of a second. This is the real reason for which movies are created. Means movies are nothing but the continuous photographs taken with a time lapse between two photographs, which is less than 1/16th of a second, so that all those photographs are not looking individual photographs, rather it is appearing as if the event is continuous, which we are looking at a movie. So this is happening due to the persistence of vision. Next, let us know about the power of accommodation of our eye. What is power of accommodation? Power of accommodation means it is the ability of our eye lens to adjust its focal length with the help of ciliary muscles. Power of accommodation generally means with the help of ciliary muscles, our eye lens is auto-adjusting its focus point so that its focus point will always fall on the retina, so that the image of the objects will be created on the retina, so that those things will be visible to us. So this happens just because our focal length will be auto-adjusted. Focal length of our eye lens will be auto adjusted. Who is helping to adjust it? The ciliary muscles is adjusting. You see, the ciliary muscles is having two positions. One is relaxed position, another one is the contract position. So whenever the ciliary muscles is in relaxed position, the eye lens becomes thin, which increases the focal length of our eye lens. Also enables us to see the distant object clearly. But when it is in contract position, the eye lens becomes thick, which decreases the focal length of our eye lens, and also enables us to see the nearby objects clearly. So these are the two positions of ciliary muscles by which our power of accommodation of our eye changes. Now let us know about two more important terms. One is near point of our eye and far point of our eye. What is that near point of our eye? This means this is the minimum distance at which the object can be seen most distinctly without causing any strain in our eye. For normal human eye, this distance is 25 centimeter. That is why it is always advisable that you should see all those things, or you should keep your books for reading beyond 25 centimeter from your eye. What is far point? Far point of the eye means it is the farthest point up to which the eye can see the objects clearly. This is infinity for normal human eye. This distance is infinity for normal human eye. Means normal human eye can see objects which are placed at infinity also. This is the farthest point where up to which one human eye can be visualizing the objects clearly. Now let us know about the defects of vision of our human eye and about their corrections. You see, whenever the human are having normal healthy human eye, at that time all these things whichever we have discussed is possible. But you have seen sometimes some human beings are unable to see things clearly, or they are facing some kind of difficulties. why those things arises? That may be arises because their eye lens is not auto adjusting the focus point, or some blurry material will be created at in front of their eyeball, that is on the retina, or any other defects. This defects arises sometimes due to different kinds of vitamin defects, or some people are suffering from these diseases from the birth itself, and also by the passage of time due to certain circumstances some people also acquire this kind of eye disease. Some of the eye disease are also having very easy curance, and some are little bit complex. Now let us know about some of the common type of eye disease or eye defects we are facing. First one is myopia, which is also known as nearsightedness. What is nearsightedness? Means a person can see nearby objects clearly but cannot see the distant object clearly in this type of eye defect. Means a myopic eye cannot see the distance object properly, but it can see all those objects which are present nearby very clearly. Then now the question arises, what is the reason of this defect? The reason of this defect is the excessive curvature of our eye lens. That means the eye lens becomes too thick and its focal length decreases, for which the image which is of the object which is above, means which should be created on the retina, that is not created on the retina. Rather it is created somewhere in between the vitreous humor, means before the retina it is created or focused. All the light rays are focused, as you can see in the diagram. It is also properly visible. All the light rays which are coming, they are focusing before the retina, for which that thing is not visible to the human. So another cause is also there for which this defect is arising, that is elongation of the eyeball. If the elongation of the eyeball happens, then all these light rays also focused at the point somewhere in between the vitreous humor, and they are not properly be focusing on the retina. So what we can do for the correction of this disease? Yes, of course, for the correction of this disease we can use a concave lens of appropriate power. If we will use that concave lens, or we will wear a spectacle which is having a concave lens of suitable power, then this kind of eye disease can be cured. Next one is hypermetropia, or this is also known as farsightedness. A person who is suffering from hypermetropia cannot see the nearby objects clearly but can see the distant object distinctly. In this eye disease, all the light ray which is coming from the distant object, they are focused behind the retina, means their focal length exceeds the retina, or the focus point exceeds the retina, which can be seen in the diagram clearly. For this purpose, at the retina the image of that object will not be created. So why this kind of defect happens? The reason of these defects are the increase in focal length of our eye lens, or if the eye lens is becoming thin, and second one is if the eyeball has become too small. Due to these two reasons, actually this kind of eye defects happens. Then what can be done for the correction of this eye disease? So for correction of this eye disease, we can use a convex lens of appropriate power, which will rectify the focal length of that our eye lens, and it will help to again focus those light rays which are coming from the object exactly on the retina, so that the image of that object will be created on the retina, which will be clearly visible in the diagram also. Next type of eye defect is presbyopia. What is presbyopia? Presbyopia means as we become old, the power of accommodation of our eye gradually decreases, for which we face difficulties in reading, writing particularly. And this type of eye defects are common in old peoples. You might have seen your grandfather or grandmother might be facing this kind of eye defect, where they are facing difficulties in reading the newspaper or reading any book. This happens because their ciliary muscles are not becoming very much flexible, means their flexibility of eye decreases, for which their eye lens cannot auto adjust itself, for which they are facing problem in visualizing the objects. This kind of disease we are calling presbyopia. You also sometimes see there are persons who are suffering both from myopia and hypermetropia. So this kind of person always wear bifocal lens, means you will see that, means whenever you will see that those people are wearing bifocal lens, then you will understand that they are suffering from both myopia and hypermetropia. Next type of eye disease is called cataract. This is a very common type of eye defects which is seen nowadays. In this eye disease, you will see mostly what happens. The image of the object cannot be seen distinctly because the eye lens becomes milky or blurry and cloudy. This condition is known as the cataract condition. In this condition, it causes lots of problem for the people for visualizing the object, because everything seems blurred to them. Okay, it can cause complete or partial vision loss also. So how can it be corrected? This can be corrected by using surgical removal of the extra growth, or by removing the whitish layer which is created on the outer part of our eye, or we are commonly called it is the cataract surgery. By the help of laser surgery or cataract surgery, we can remove that whitish layer which is formed in front of our eye, and this kind of eye disease can be corrected. Next, we will know about the concept of dispersion of light. You know that dispersion of light means the splitting of a polychromatic light into constituent colors whenever it passes through a prism. That is called the dispersion of white light. So this dispersion of white light happens just because it passes through the prism. Then what is a prism? The prism is actually a optical device which has two rectangular bases and three rectangular surfaces. These surfaces are inclined to each other as shown in the picture. The angle between the two lateral surfaces is called the angle of prism, which is visible in the diagram also. There are different parts of the prism which we are calling the angle of prism, also angle of deviation, and also when the light ray passes through it, one angle of incidence will be created, angle of refraction, angle of incidence, angle of emergent, and emergent ray, refracted ray, then also your incident ray. So there are different parts which we will also know in this topic. Next, let us know what is the angle of deviation of the prism. Angle of deviation means it is the angle between the incident ray and the emergent ray. This is called angle of deviation. Then when the light dispersion of the white light happens, there you will see the light is not traveling in a straight path, rather when it passes through the prism it bends. So there are the angle of deviation will be created, means how much the light ray is deviating from its original position. That is called the angle of deviation. you will see that the splitting of white light into a band of color happens whenever that white light is passing through this prism. This is first discovered by the eminent scientist Isaac Newton. So what happens whenever he first observed that whenever this white color light is passing through the prism, it is splitting into a range of color or a set of color which is arranged in the sequence of Vibgyor. So what is Vibgyor? Vibgyor means V stands for violet, I stands for indigo, B stands for blue, G stands for green, Y for yellow, O for orange, and R stands for red color. So this color band we are calling as the spectrum or spectrum of light. Whenever a polychromatic light or a mixture of light, because white light is a mixture of 7 different colors, whenever it passes through the prism, it splits into different colors, and this color range we can obtain on a screen, and this pattern we are calling as the spectrum of light. This happens because whenever light passes in through the prism, due to the different wavelengths of different colorful lights, they splits. So that is why this pattern is observed. So Isaac Newton also found that whenever you are passing this spectrum of light through another prism which is kept at the inverted position, means the angle of prism should be facing the bottom side and the base of the prism is kept to the upward direction, all the spectrum will again combine and they will again give you a white light. And just remember, the splitting of light will only happen if you are passing a polychromatic source of light, means that is a mixture of light, or most particularly we can say the white color light. But if you will pass a monochromatic light through the prism, no spectrum will be obtained. Means for example, if I will take a red color laser light and I will try to pass that color light through the prism, it will not give you a colorful spectrum. As I told you, there are several important terms are there related to prism. As you can see in the diagram, it is visible that prism has several important terms like incident ray, emergent ray, angle of prism, angle of deviation. So what are those? Let us know. So here is a prism ABC which is having two refracting surfaces. Those are AB and AC, and BC is the base of the prism. Whenever the light ray is incidenting on the surface AB, we are calling that is the incident beam, or that is also known as the incident ray. Now at the point of incidence, if we will draw a perpendicular to the surface AB, then that will be called the normal, that is n dash. Now because the light is entering from the rarer medium to a denser medium, thereat the bending will happen. Then the angle between normal and the incident beam we are calling the angle of incidence. At the point of E, where the first time bending of the light is happening and the light is entering inside the prism, and that is also leaving the prism at one point from the surface AC, and the ray which is coming out of the prism we are calling that is the emergent ray. And the angle between the emergent ray and the normal which is drawn at the point of incidence we are calling that is the angle of emergence, that is E, denoted by small e. And if I will extend both the incident beam and the emergent beam, wherever they will intersect, an angle will be created. As you can see in the diagram, that is yellow in color, that is angle D, which is called the angle of deviation, and that can also be determined practically, that we will see now. Another thing you see, the angle of prism. The A angle is known as the angle of prism. Angle of prism means it is the angle which is opposite to the base of the prism, that is the base BC, and here in this case it is measured to be 60 degree. Now let us see how the angle of deviation can be determined. For this, you have to take a glass prism, scale, protractor and pencil. First of all, you have to put that prism on the piece of paper. Then you have to draw its outline. That outline of the prism you have to draw. Now you can also name that prism. You will see that a triangular shape object will be created. You can name that prism as ABC. Now you again place that prism to check whether the linings are perfect or not. Then arbitrarily choose any point in the surface AB and thereat put your protractor and measure a 90-degree there for dropping a perpendicular to the surface AB. Now join the 2 points with the help of scale or maybe the protractor. Now drop a perpendicular that you can name it as N dash or any other names also you can also give. Now at that point again put your protractor and see it is the perfect 90-degree, and then you put that protractor and measure arbitrary angle which is less than 90-degree. Maybe you can choose 60, 45, whatever up to choice you can choose. For our reference angle, any angle you can choose. Now you can see that is our angle of incidence. We have means in this direction we have to incident our light. See the angle between the normal and that incident ray we are taking, that is the angle of incidence. You can take it as any angle as per your choice. Now take 2 pins and prick it on the incident ray that you have drawn, and again place your prism on the respective place, that is exactly on the triangle. Now take another pin and just looking at those 2 pins which are initially you have put it on that line, you just put that pins. Take another one, means 2 pins you have to take and you have to put them so that all the pins they will look like as if they are lying in same line. You have to see the other side of the prism and you have to decide. Now you put dot marks on that pin position and join all these positions to the refracting surface AC of that prism. Now you can just put a point and thereat also you can draw one normal, which is also you can name it as M dash also. And the angle between this angle between this normal and this emergent beam is called angle of emergence. You can also measure it using your protractor and value can be found out. Now join the 2 beams, that is the incident beam and the emergent beam. This is the refracted beam or refracted ray. Means whenever first time bending happens, it bends inside the prism and the light ray. Again bending happens whenever it passes through the surface AC. Now extend both the incident beam and emergent beam so that they will meet each other at a point. And now you can measure the angle, which is angle E or D. You can say that angle is the angle of deviation. You have to now let us know about atmospheric refraction. You already know about refraction. When this refraction happens in atmosphere, we are calling it the atmospheric refraction. So the atmospheric refraction means it is the phenomenon of bending of light on passing through the Earth's atmosphere. Because you know Earth's atmosphere is not uniform everywhere, whenever the light passes through the Earth's atmosphere, it bends and changes its paths, which is also known as the atmospheric refraction. Due to this atmospheric refraction, several phenomena or natural phenomena can be observed in our nature, and those are: one is apparent position of the star, twinkling of star, and apparent length of a day increasing by 4 minutes. Like this, there are so many natural phenomena which can be observed in our nature. So first of all, let us know about the apparent star position. You will see it happens due to the atmospheric refraction of starlight. The temperature and density of different layers of atmosphere keeps varying always. So we have different mediums. So from when the light comes from a distant star and it enters to the Earth's atmosphere, it undergoes multiple refractions due to the changing of refractive index. That is, whenever light enters from a rarer medium to denser medium, it bends towards the normal, for which atmospheric refraction happens, and due to this, the apparent position of the star is different from its actual position. Means original position or actual position of the star is something different, and the position of the star which is visualizing to us or which is visible to us is something different. This happens only because of the atmospheric refraction. Next concept, you will see that the twinkling of star. The twinkling of star is also occurring due to the atmospheric refraction. When the distant star acts like a point source of light, as the beam of starlight keeps deviating from its path, the apparent position of the star keeps on changing, because the physical condition of Earth's atmosphere is not stationary or not uniform everywhere. Hence, the amount of light enters to our eyes fluctuates sometimes. Means sometimes it's appear bright and sometimes it becomes faint. So this is called the twinkling effect of the star. This effect is also called the twinkling effect of the star. Means sometimes the star appears brighter and sometimes it becomes faint. This happens due to the refraction of the starlight when it enters through the Earth's atmosphere. Next, you see the apparent length of a day increases by 4 minutes. How it increases? When the sun is visible, this means the sun is visible 2 minutes before the actual sunrise or sunset appears 2 minutes after the actual sunset has taken place. This happens due to the atmospheric refraction only. Means because the light which is coming from the sun when it is nearer to the horizon position, it actually whenever the light is entering to the atmosphere, the timing changes. Means the actual timing and the apparent timing, there is a difference. This happens because the light ray bends whenever it enters to the Earth's atmosphere, for which we will see that the the sun will be visible 2 minutes before the actual sunrise, and it will set, means it will appear to set 2 minutes after the actual sunset. So there is a all total of 4 minutes of variation between the apparent length of the day and actual length of the day. Now let us know about the scattering of light. The scattering of light means to throw the light in various random directions. The light is scattered when it falls on various types of suspended particles. You see, our atmosphere is a mixture of different kinds of particles. So whenever light falls on it, it scatters away. So here one term you must know, that is the Tyndall effect. Tyndall effect means, you see, the Earth's atmosphere is a mixture of many minute particles such as smoke, water droplets, dust, etc. When a beam of light strikes on these particles, the path taken by the beam becomes visible, due to which the scattered light is also visible to us. So for this we can see the blue color of the sky also. So means Let us know in details about the blue color of the sky, why it exactly visible. As I told you, in Tyndall effect, because the light gets scattered from the tiny particles, the path of the light becomes visible. So this is why the color of the sky becomes blue. Why? Because the blue color of the sky is caused by the atmospheric scattering of light, of sunlight particularly. So what happens when the sunlight is entering to the atmosphere? It gets scattered by the particles which are suspended in our atmosphere. We are also calling this scattering as the Rayleigh scattering. That is very much similar to the Rayleigh scattering, which is more effective at short wavelengths. Short wavelengths means the blue end of the visible spectrum. This is that is the short wavelength. So there are more scattering happens. Therefore, the light scattered down to the earth at a large angle with respect to the direction of the sun's light, which is predominantly in blue, in the blue end of the spectrum. Means mostly the blue color of light which is coming from the sun, those lights are getting scattered by the particles which are suspended in our atmosphere. So this light is visible to us, not the real color light. That is why we are calling that the sky appears blue in color due to the scattering of light. You see, then the reddish color of the sun during the sunrise and sunset, this happens due to the atmospheric scattering also. So during the sunrise and sunset, light from the sun nearer the horizon passes through the thicker layer of air and larger distance, and it travels larger distance in its atmosphere before reaching to our eyes. So the light from the sun, when it is present overhead, would travel relatively shorter distance, which is resulting in white appearance of the sun. Near the horizon, most of the blue light and the shorter wavelengths are scattered away by the particles. Therefore, the light that reaches our eye is the longer wavelengths. Hence, the reddish appearance of the sun is visible to us. So with this, we are finishing the chapter, that is human eye and colorful world. I hope you all understood this chapter very well. Still, if people have any doubt, you can ask me and I will try to clarify your doubts. Have a good day.